So I did see Casey crying, and I did want to, I think a couple times maybe. And we actually briefly considered officing Elephant back here. It's a gorgeous space, and it might be the only new business in town. When I tell people about it, those two words put together, you can do a cooking class, bring a date, bring a friend, come on your own. Every single time, 100% of the time, people open their eyes and say, wow. And, you know, how do I, you know, what's next? How do I find out more? So it's kind of, there's no sure thing, especially in Boulder. I know the city of Boulder really helped make this place happen. They were so helpful. But I want to toast her success in getting it through the city, and I do feel like it's kind of a home run. So to Casey. As a vegan, I'm very excited for the butchering class. So I wish I could see everyone at the same time, but I guess I'll get dizzy later.
We can see you, Waylon, it's all that matters.
Yeah, that's how I feel. My mom read the book, which is a little uncomfortable. If you read the book, you'll know why. And I just talked to her before I came, that's why I was 10 minutes late, and she said, it was very sweet, and she felt like she got to know me better. And boy, I sure shared a lot. So, we sent her a copy with some stuff X'd out, but clearly we should have done more pictures. But I think, so what happened, the story of this book, about this book, I think there's two levels. One is how we created it, and we printed only 20 blocks away. Almost all books are printed, you guessed it, a little bit more than 20 blocks away, overseas. All new books, 100%, the ones your kids are reading, if you have children, are coated in toxic plastic. The inks are toxic, the glue is toxic, the printing on the front is toxic. The paper, ironically, is probably by far the best single thing in books. Even if it's not recycled. This stuff might be boring, but you know, the romance and the love we all have for books is based on that old book smell, that kind of vanilla-in smell, which is actually in paper, or was. And we really tried to do that again. You know, this is by far the biggest book project this printer has ever had. They all had Christmas, you know, checks for their families, you know, partially because of this book. They're pretty psyched. I don't know if anyone from the printer is here. I invited David, who is about twice as tall as me, so it'd be hard to miss him. A little bit wider too, since he's not here. So there's a page in the back of the book, if you get the book, called Booking Us of the Book, about the bookiness of the book. And I really encourage people to read it and to care. And if you're parents, you know, buy used books. It's always the best. Used Shambhala publications are probably the very best. And Roost. I heard of Sarah is a book publisher, so she is supporting my super PAC, so I would like to revise what I just said. All books are bad except for Shambhala publications and Roost, which you should buy. Shambhala.com, 2 H's. I actually worked there when I was a kid, and Sarah and I go way back. We're about 25 and 20 respectively, so we've known each other for 10 years. So this book, so finally I would just say, I went on a date with, I was going to say with David, with a lady who I went on a date with, and David and his girlfriend at the time, and a couple other friends out in the country. And it was a pretty good date, and I wrote about it, and I wrote about it with a sense of, you know, I'm 41 now. I started writing this when I was 39. A sense of, you know, longing for love, and it sure seems distant a lot of the time, and then often it seems very close and sudden, and it doesn't seem dependable. And I wrote that chapter, and it was by far, I write a lot, and I'm kind of a writer, and I kind of connect decently with people sometimes, but I'd never written anything that got this kind of reaction. It was not about me at all, and it was about people having this longing for some genuine sort of love. In a country that's only this generation or the last emerged from the sort of Mad Men dichotomy of gender roles, and the guy goes off and makes money and has affairs and is bored, and the woman stays home and drinks martinis and vacuums and is bored. And luckily we've evolved out of that, so we're sort of in this brave new world. And I actually think the divorce rate is nothing to be ashamed about. It's freedom on some level. But on the other hand, we still want something that we can commit to, something worthwhile and simple. And I think this book was basically, I wrote about a lot of dates in this book, none of which obviously went very well ultimately. And about the vision of relationships that I grew up with. So I grew up in the Buddhist community, and we talk about relationships as something with space in between. Space allows room for humor, maybe we could just listen for 1 second. It's a book launch, not to be rude. Just try to talk about something. So, if we can have a little space between us, there can be beautiful distance in which we could, express things like poetry or genuine emotion or humor or room for change or independence. And that's the Buddhist notion of love, that you're a partnership and you're facing the same direction toward the sun, trying to be of service and be of benefit. And it's not all this sort of about me and us, this rom-com notion of happily ever after. So I tried to write about a love without kind of ownership. And that's what the book is about. So thank you so much for coming out. Casey and I talked about having it here because she actually is so busy and hasn't even had time for a launch. So I'm so proud of her. And we had this exact vision, just a ton of great people. Now we can get back to having a good time, and I apologize. Just a great bunch of great people, and that's the easiest party there is. So have a great time.